We need to talk about Tulum. Once considered Mexico's fastest growing tourist destination, the coastal town is now struggling. Locals are frustrated, home buyers have been defrauded by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the jungle town itself is on the verge of collapse. How did we get here in such a short period of time? This is the cautionary tale of Tulum's multi-million-dollar expansion. A few years ago, if you wanted to travel to Tulum in Mexico's picturesque Riviera Maya, you would have to fly into Cancun International Airport. This was 75 miles away. Plus, Cancun International was often crowded, expensive, and the journey could take anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours depending on traffic. Still, the tourists came in droves. Tulum represented everything the modern traveler craved. White sand beaches, turquoise Caribbean waters, dramatic ancient ruins, and an Instagrammable blend of bohemian chic and eco-conscious luxury. For tourists, it became the place where you could practice yoga at sunrise, swim in a cenote in the afternoon, and spend all night raving to a world-famous DJ. It was basically marketed as Mexico's answer to Mykonos or Ibiza. The statistics reflected this trend. Between 2010 and 2020, Tulum's population grew by 65% to around 46,000. Investors from the US and Europe poured money into condos, retreats, and hotels, convinced that they were investing in the next big tourist destination. The government also played its part in promoting the town. By December 2023, Tulum officially had its own international airport. The mega project cost the government about $182 million, but it took only about a year to construct. 8 months into its launch, it had already seen a footfall of 700,000 passengers. By the end of 2024, Tulum also had its own station on the Tren Maya route. This high-speed rail line is estimated to have cost a significantly more $30 billion to build, but had the noble goal of promoting the economy of the Yucatan Peninsula. This was all it took for publications, experts, and casual observers to call Tulum the smartest real estate investment in Mexico. Soon after, Tulum Times reported that property rates were rising 8 to 15% annually, outpacing other popular towns like Cancun and Playa del Carmen. The hype was real. Then it all fell apart. Tulum's positioning had ended up attracting a very specific demographic: affluent millennials and Gen X travelers willing to shell out thousands of dollars for a chance to stay and work remotely in this paradise on Earth. Soon the market was flooded with developments trying to keep up. High-quality 3D renderings showed happy couples sitting in plunge pools on their balconies, sipping cocktails. Ads sold luxury homes on cliffs for ridiculously low prices. Beach clubs multiplied along the coastline. Boutique hotels popped up in the jungle. The developments also stretched further and further from the town center. According to the publication Mansion Global, the rural suburb of Los Árboles saw the construction of homes as big as 25,000 square feet, surrounded by untouched nature. Each project promised to be more eco-friendly, more exclusive, more authentic. But the buyers are weary, and for good reason too. As projects multiplied, scams slowly grew in number. In the last few years, many potential investors have filed lawsuits alleging that builders took money up front for homes they never intended to build. A few others have accused builders of stealing land, using a network of lawyers to forge documents. Things only get murkier from there. 2 partners of the Overdevelopment group were found dead after taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from prospective homeowners. The projects are still under litigation, and the investors, mostly expats from the US looking to buy summer homes, were left with nothing. As it turns out, making 3D renderings of luxury homes is easy, but actually building these luxury properties in a heritage town with strict environmental and building regulations and a nexus of bad faith actors isn't as straightforward. Even the homeowners who bought into legit projects and received ownership of their homes soon realized that the situation was not so rosy. Bloomberg tells the story of one homeowner who bought his house during the peak of the real estate boom for well over $100,000. Initially, he was renting his apartment out for $250 per night. A year later, he had to reduce the fare to $50. In 2023, meanwhile, he didn't receive a single visitor. This reflects a much larger trend in Tulum. Despite the massive population growth between 2010 and 2020, tourism numbers have dipped. In 2024, the same experts who pegged Tulum as the next big global tourist destination now admitted that tourism numbers were rivaling pandemic figures when half the world was in lockdown. Many homes are now vacant. To be precise, Tulum Times reports that a staggering 35% of new homes were still awaiting buyers in 2024. Simultaneously, construction permits rose by 22% in 3 years between 2021 and 2023. This has ended up creating what is called a buyer's market. Investors are starting to reel from the effects. Fewer than half of the newly built vacation rentals got any long-term tenants in 2024. Rental rates have fallen, leaving many struggling to pay mortgages. Plus, remember, these homes were never meant to be affordable for the locals anyway. The average wage in Tulum is about $10 per day. Without a significant rise in affluent tourists or enthusiastic long-term investors, the crash is seemingly imminent. There are hundreds of factors that could explain why tourism and interest have dropped, but mostly they all boil down to one fact: Tulum is slowly losing its charm. This is no longer a pristine, untouched Caribbean paradise. It's now a town choked by poor planning, haphazard construction, and environmental degradation. Tulum's rapid expansion exposed one fundamental flaw: the town's infrastructure simply can't keep pace with construction. Its electrical grid, designed for a small fishing village, is buckling under the load of air-conditioned hotels and restaurants. Construction is proving to be more damaging to the ecosystem than earlier anticipated. Despite promising luxury condos with Caribbean views, builders are actually dealing with a sewage system that is failing catastrophically. Waste routinely leaks into groundwater, contaminating cenotes and posing serious health risks. Garbage collectors can't handle the volume of waste generated, streets are filled with refuse, and the pristine natural beauty that was once Tulum's biggest selling point began to deteriorate visibly. Local residents, who had initially welcomed the economic opportunities that tourism brought, now find themselves priced out of their own city, while simultaneously dealing with the environmental and social costs of overdevelopment. The promise that Tulum's growth would benefit everyone has proven hollow. Okay, now let's leave aside all the gloom and doom for a second. Sure, things aren't looking great, but tourist towns all across the globe have faced similar growing pains. Tourism is cyclical in nature and has the potential to rise just as sharply as it falls. Maybe this downtime is exactly the lesson overenthusiastic developers and investors need. Perhaps it will force them to focus on what made the town so appealing in the first place. Fewer $15 smoothie bowls and stricter enforcement of environmental measures could go a long way in preserving Tulum's rich history and heritage. So, has Tulum's multi-million-dollar revamp really failed? It's hard to say for sure, but things are certainly not looking good as it stands.